They said strength is measured in medals, but real strength bleeds in silence. It doesn't shout, it endures. And when the dust settles, only the ones who never gave up still stand.
A young recruit sneered at the battle-scarred female sergeant standing before him on the training field. He had no idea who she really was. But when the base general arrived and addressed her by a legendary call sign, the recruit's smug grin vanished in an instant. He froze as he realized the hero he had insulted was standing right in front of him. Dawn broke over Starcore Training Camp, a remote military base on the frontier of human space. A new batch of recruits lined up for morning drills under the pale light of a rising sun. The air simmered with heat, and the distant buzz of surveillance drones marked this as a high-tech training ground of the future. Among the assembled recruits stood Sergeant Elena Ramirez, an instructor for this cohort. She was a lean, steady figure with short, propped hair and a web of pale scars etched across the right side of her face and neck, visible badges of past battles. Private Jonas O'Neill, a fresh-faced recruit with more confidence than sense, noticed the sergeant's scars as she paced down the line. His own uniform was crisp and spotless, not a scratch on him from the comforts of civilian life. He elbowed a fellow recruit and whispered, "Looks like someone tried to draw a map on her face with a laser." A couple of recruits snickered. Emboldened, Jonas raised his voice. "Hey, Sarge, nice face art. Did you get those scars for free when you enlisted, or are you just eager to show off?" His tone oozed sarcasm and immaturity. Sergeant Ramirez stopped in her tracks. Slowly, she turned and fixed Jonas with a cold, unwavering stare. A few of the recruits who had laughed now bit their lips, sensing the shift in the air. Jonas's smirk faltered as the sergeant's hard gaze locked onto him. "Eyes front, Private," Ramirez said quietly, with razor-sharp authority. Her voice was calm but carried an unmistakable warning. Jonas felt a prickle of fear at the back of his neck and snapped his mouth shut. He straightened up, swallowing hard, while Ramirez held his gaze for a second longer before continuing her inspection. The yard was silent now, except for the crunch of her boots on the gravel. Jonas had gotten away with only a scolding, but a few of his fellow recruits shot him looks that said, "Are you crazy?" Just as the tension began to ebb, a sharp whir broke the silence. A sleek black hovercraft descended onto the far end of the field, blowing dust in all directions as it touched down. General Marcus Holt emerged, and every recruit, Jonas included, snapped to rigid attention. Sergeant Ramirez, standing at the front, saluted smartly. General Holt walked along the line of wide-eyed recruits, returning salutes with a nod. When he neared Sergeant Ramirez, he paused. A spark of recognition crossed the general's features. "Sergeant Elena Ramirez," he said, breaking into a grin that few ever saw. Ramirez remained at attention, but Jonas noticed a hint of surprise in her eyes. "Sir?" "Yes, sir. Sergeant Ramirez reporting," she said. To the recruit's surprise, the general extended his hand, and Ramirez shook it firmly. General Holt's voice rang out so all could hear. "It's good to see you up and about, Sergeant. Or should I say, Phoenix?" A ripple of whispers spread through the lineup. Phoenix. The general had called her Phoenix. Jonas's mind raced. Phoenix? The call sign was legendary, part of the military lore every recruit learned in basic history classes. He had heard the tales of Phoenix, the soldier who saved dozens of lives in a distant battle. Realization hit him. This scarred sergeant was that very hero. Jonas felt a hot flush of shame crawl up his neck. General Holt glanced around at the recruits, noting their puzzled faces. He decided to make this a teachable moment. "I take it some of you haven't heard how Sergeant Ramirez earned that call sign," he said, his tone turning serious. Jonas felt sweat bead on his forehead. General Holt gestured for the group to gather in closer. "Listen up, everyone," he announced. 2 years ago, during the Battle of Vega Prime, this sergeant in front of you went through hell. The recruits leaned in, eyes wide. Jonas's breath hitched. The Battle of Vega Prime was one of the fiercest conflicts in recent memory. Her unit was stationed at Outpost 9 on Vega Prime when it came under heavy attack. They were outnumbered and cut off from support. Jonas pictured the scenes he'd seen in news clips, blazing skies and tracer fire on a distant colony world. Then a mortar explosion ignited the outpost's fuel depot. The whole camp was up in flames. A few recruits sucked in their breath. Ramirez's jaw tightened as she relived that day. Jonas's eyes flickered to her scars. He can almost imagine the searing heat and flying debris that caused them. General Holt continued. Sergeant Ramirez, she was a corporal back then, was injured, but when she saw her comrades trapped in the burning infirmary tent, she didn't hesitate. His voice thinned with emotion. She ran straight into the fire. The recruits listened, rapt and horrified. Through collapsing beams and burning debris, she dragged out every wounded soldier she could find. She shielded them with her own body as explosions tore through the compound. Jonas felt a tear well in his eye before he could stop it. By the time reinforcements arrived, she would saved 15 lives. 15! Some of those men and women are alive today because of her. He paused to let that sink in. Ramirez was pulled from the ashes, barely breathing, but she made it. She rose from the flames, and that's why we call her Phoenix. The recruits were deadly quiet. Many had tears glistening. Jonas realized his hands were shaking as he held his rifle at attention. He had mocked this woman for her scars, and now he understood those scars were earned with unimaginable courage. Shame flooded him. General Holt laid a gentle hand on Ramirez's shoulder. These set months in recovery, and the Federation honored her with the highest medal for valor. Instead of taking a comfortable desk job, she chose to be here, training new recruits, passing on her strength. He turned to look directly at Jonas and the others who had laughed. That, soldiers, is what a true hero looks like, and you do well to remember it. Jonas wanted to shrink into the ground. He blinked hard, trying to push back the tears of guilt and admiration that threatened to fall. The general gave a curt nod to the group. "Carry on, Sergeant," he said to Ramirez, then moved off to speak with other officers, leaving the recruits in stunned silence. As the general's hovercraft whisked away, the training yard remained unusually quiet. Sergeant Ramirez exhaled and looked over her squad of recruits. They were all staring at her now with a mix of awe and regret. Jonas stepped forward, cheeks burning. "Sergeant Ramirez," he croaked, his earlier cockiness utterly gone. I'm sorry, I was way out of line." He straightened up and gave her a sincere, trembling salute. "Ma'am, it would be an honor to learn from you." Ramirez studied the young private. The anger she might have felt had melted into a sad kindness. She returned his salute. "Apology accepted, Private. Just remember this. Respect your comrades. You never know what they've been through." Jonas nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. She offered a faint smile, making the scars on her cheek shift gently. "These scars," she added, "are a reminder of what I've fought through. Someday you might have your own scars, and I'll expect you to earn them honorably." Her eyes shone not with reprimand, but with encouragement. Jonas felt a surge of determination and respect. He stepped back in line. The other recruits straightened up as well, their posture firmer than before. The atmosphere on the field had transformed. Where there had been doubt and mockery, there was now reverence. From that day on, they would follow her example. Scars were not marks of shame. They were marks of sacrifice. As drills resumed, every recruit understood the true meaning of courage and respect, thanks to the scarred soldier who stood among them, the legendary Phoenix.